Before we begin today's episode of Potterless, I wanted to give a shout out to Andreas Ozelby, our newest supporter on Patreon. Andreas will now be receiving bonus content in return for pledging money to help making the podcast better. If this interests you, you can head to patreon.com/Potterless. If not, no big deal at all. Also, thanks again to everyone. Oh, wow, look at that voice crack. Thanks again to everyone who has talked about Potterless on social media. And, if you just want to tell a friend in person, or your mom, or your second cousin twice removed about Potterless, that would be super awesome. But anyway, guys, let's waste no more time and get into the next few chapters of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, starring Amanda McLoughlin. Welcome back, everyone. Back to the Potterless podcast, here to further discuss the remaining section of the first third of The Prisoner of Azkaban.
Harry's long and storied journey back to Hogwarts. We're not even there yet, and so much is happening.
So good. So much has already happened. So much is happening. We are back with Amanda McLoughlin. It is great to have you here again. A week has passed since posting, but 15 seconds have passed since recording.
I can't wait. We got to get just right back into it.
Let's just get right into it. Waste no time. Chapter 6, Talons and Tea Leaves. So it's breakfast the next morning, and Malfoy and Crabbe and Goyle are taunting Harry about the whole Dementor thing. They're trying to poke fun at him and say he's a wuss and all this, and Harry's just basically ignoring him. He's the worst bully ever.
So ineffective.
It's so dumb.
If you're gonna burn Malfoy, burn him.
One of the people that laughs at Malfoy's jokes is a girl by the name of Pansy Parkinsons.
With a face like a pug.
Pansy Parkinsons.
Parkinson, singular.
Oh, singular. Okay.
Yes.
I guess autocorrect on my phone changed it to Parkinsons.
Yes. No, just the singular Parkinson. So at least she isn't the name of a terrible disease.
I was going to say, not only does she have an alliteration name, but she's named after a disease.
Not quite.
Are we going to meet Larry Lou Gehrig's disease next?
No, we're not. But I mean, it does reinforce the stereotype that only weird-looking kids are in Slytherin, apparently.
So while Malfoy's teasing him, the twins come over and talk to Harry, and they're like, yo, don't worry about it. Dementors are super scary. It's chill. Then it's mentioned that at breakfast, they're eating fried tomatoes.
Oh my God, I'm glad you noticed this too. Again, so as a kid, this was my one introduction to British food. And for the longest time, I was so confused. Okay, so butterbeer isn't real. Pumpkin juice is real. Treacle tart is real. Fizzing Whizbees aren't real. I just got all mixed up in the head.
But fried tomatoes, I'm so intrigued. Is it like fried pickles where you slice them and then batter them and deep fry them?
No, they're not deep fried. They're just sort of pan fried.
Oh, so they're pan-fried
Yeah, so
tomatoes.
it's like a roasted green, like a roasted bell pepper or something like a similar texture.
I'd rather just have a raw tomato.
They're actually not bad.
Is that I'm assuming that's a British thing?
It is it's part of the British breakfast in the same way that American
that's
breakfast.
One of the
it would be eggs, pancakes, bacon, toast or something. The British one is baked beans, fried tomatoes, toast, potatoes of some sort, and eggs.
Quick side note, of all the traditional breakfasts, Scottish breakfast is the greatest thing in the world.
Lay it on me.
So when Tim and I went to Scotland, we ate at the first time, went to breakfast at this place, and then we ate there for the next 3 days we were in Scotland.
I've done that too while traveling. It's epic.
It was just this great little place. So the traditional Scottish breakfast is 2 eggs, served however you want them.
Great start.
A tatty scone, which is a potato scone. A little disc of haggis, which is the traditional Scottish side dish.
Just enough.
Fantastic.
Just enough.
Then it's a little thing of black pudding, which is this spicy pudding that I thought was made of black beans. I later found out is just made of blood.
Just blood.
It's blood but
pudding.
It's delicious.
Yep.
And then you get a cup of coffee. I got a glass of milk because I'm a child and I don't like coffee.
You're from the heartland, Mike. That's why you drink that.
Yeah, and you get 2 sausage links. It's just it was just so good. And we go there first off, and we're gonna pay for this meal with credit cards because that's just what we have. And we didn't bring any cash. It was in our Airbnb. And the person goes up there like, oh, we only accept cash. And we're like, oh, we don't have any on us. Can we go get some and come back? And they were like, yeah, totally, that's fine. It's cool. Do you want to leave our wallet as collateral or a phone as collateral, like a normal thing? And they're just like, no, we trust you to come back.
Nice, honey. Why would they do that?
We're like, whoa, Scottish people are way too nice. We could have just straight up left.
Nope.
So out of the fact that the food was delicious and perfect,
And
just
loyalty.
throw on that they're the nicest people ever. We're like, we have to give these people
So
business.
good.
So we went in the next 3 days, and it was amazing.
So good.
So just a quick little side note about if you ever find yourself in Edinburgh, I forget the name of the place, but get Scottish breakfast.
Show notes.
So the next thing that happens is that Ron and Harry start to make fun of Hermione because she's taking a ton of classes. So this was mentioned at the end of the second book, and now they bring it up again, that she's taking a billion jillion classes this semester.
Yes, and she also had walked out of McGonagall's office right after they entered the castle looking really happy. So wonder what's going on with her.
What they bring up is Ron is like, wait a second, you're signed up for 3 classes at one time? How are you going to go to 3 classes at 9 in the morning? And she goes, it's okay. I fixed it with Professor McGonagall, which at first I was like, what does that mean? Later on, I have a great prediction for what it is. And this is something I have no idea from the book. Like, I kind of remember the Peter Pettigrew thing happening, which is why I think that's real. But I know nothing about this from the movie, so I'm really hoping this prediction is correct. Oh, I'll say it later when it gets into it. I'm going to wait. All
right.
So they go to Divination class, and it's really far away and hard to get to, and they get lost along the way.
And I love how none of the portraits who live in Hogwarts and their literal job is just to know all about Hogwarts don't know where the North Tower is.
No, they don't. So yeah, that's the thing is they're going by the paintings don't know where to go, but they run into a knight in a painting, and he's like being very knightish, and then the squad kind of tricks him. They're like, oh, we're on a quest. And he's like, a quest? Where to? And they're like, oh, to Divination class. He's like, right this way.
Let's
so
go.
he starts running through all the paintings. So he's like blue skidooing through all of the paintings, which I think is cool.
Buffoonishly gets his sword stuck. Oh my God, I love him.
And he's like, no, you didn't see anything. What? No. So he tries to play it off real cool. Doesn't work. He takes them to the class, and basically the class is like floating in the sky.
It's a harem.
You have to take a ladder to get to it.
Harem in the sky.
You get inside of it, and it's basically just like a hipster tea shop.
In my memory, or in my imagination initially, it's like a treehouse blanket fort.
I like it.
So like at the very top of a tower, you have to get through, like a trap door in the floor. And then once you get up there, it's just all like pillows and textiles and fire, because those are great combinations in like purples and pinks. Also, probably I think the best casting decision of any of the movies, Emma Thompson as Professor Trelawney. Oh, so good.
This is what I've heard. I've heard from multiple people when I told them what point I was at in the book that the casting of this teacher, who I despise, is perfect.
It is.
So I'm excited to watch this movie.
As a character, infuriating.
So right off the bat, I learned to hate Professor Trelawney, who is the divination teacher, because the first thing she says is, oh, it's so nice to meet all of you in person. Descending into the main school clouds my inner eye. Kill me.
Yeah, I also don't want to go to my weekly staff meetings, Professor Trelawney, but, we all got to do things we don't like to do.
It's just the worst kind of person. So apparently she says divination is the hardest subject, and you're completely screwed if you don't have the inner sight.
To be fair, only a little bit less pretentious than Snape's opening monologue about how potions are like the most dangerous and beautiful. Remember that from the first book?
Yeah, every teacher's just super proud of their subject. They all need to just chill.
I know. But this is, I think, one of like the funniest sections in the book. So
Ron and Harry are very excited about this class. They smirk at Hermione because they finally think that they found a class where studying a lot and being really book smart won't help. So the teacher asks Neville if his grandmother is all right, and he's like, I think so. And she says, I wouldn't be so sure. What the fuck is this?
What a bitch. This is a 13-year-old kid.
Yeah, like,
Come
hey,
on.
how's your grandma, Neville? I think she's good. No, she's fucking dying. Like, what is happening?
Also, Parvati, your fucking rabbit's gonna die. Or Lavender Brown, your rabbit's gonna die. Good luck.
Yeah, she's just awful. So the teacher has them do a tea leaf vision test with a partner.
Also, just like jumping right into it. There's no predicting what side of the coin it landed on. Just like, tea leaves go.
Yeah, find out your ominous fate. So she keeps predicting stuff while this is happening. Like, she's like, oh, Mr. Longbottom, after you break your first teacup, like, please get a blue one because I don't like them as much. And then she goes to, what's the name of the Indian girl that Ron eventually takes on a date? Yeah. So tells her is like, oh, avoid a red-haired man in the future. So that's foreshadowing. foreshadowing
Hint,
of book
hint.
4 when they have a terrible time at the dance.
They do.
But it's really annoying that she just keeps predicting stuff in like the sassiest ways.
It is. We do, though, get a passing mention. I don't know if it's in this classroom or next in Transfiguration of animagi or animagi, wizards who could transform at will into animals. That will be important.
Yeah, I don't think I've gotten to that yet, so I think that's the next time. So Harry does Ron's tea leaf thing and concludes jokingly that he can't like necessarily read what it is. So he's like, oh, you're going to suffer, but you're going to be very happy while you suffer.
Legendary moment from the movies once more. That's been
yes.
gift or gypped all over the place.
Yeah, my girlfriend identified. She was like, that's my favorite line in any of the movies. It's a perfect delivery.
It's either that one or you have the emotional capacity of a teaspoon, which I use in daily life.
Ooh, that's really good.
Oh, yeah. That's Hermione to Ron, I think, next book.
Nice. Really excited about it. So Ron then does Harry's, and Professor Trelawney freaks out when she sees a falcon, which means you have an evil enemy. And Hermione's like, yeah, duh.
No shit.
Everybody knows about
Harry
Voldemort,
Potter.
you freaking idiot. He's Harry.
Yeah, Hermione also just not taking any shit.
Yeah, they make a note to be like, Hermione was acting very strange, which plays into my theory later. So then the professor freaks out even more because Harry has a skull, which means danger in his path. And then she screams in horror and falls into a chair at him having a tea leaf in the shape of, quote, the Grim.
The Grim. And also all the other wizarding kids are like,
Half the wizarding kids are like, and other half are like, what?
the kids who haven't heard of the Grim before
Yes.
aren't sure, but the ones who have are like, oh, shit.
Oh, no. So you find out that the Grim is a giant spectral dog that haunts churchyards and is the worst omen of death.
It is.
So Harry's like, great. Good thing I've seen a lot of those recently.
I know, he was like recapping for the reader. I saw it in person. I saw it on the cover of that book, and here we are.
Yeah. Hermione tries to stand up for Harry and is like, wait, I don't think it looks like a Grim. And Trelawney sasses her, says she doesn't have a good aura, and tells her to like,
Which
be
again,
quiet.
as a Hermione type, you know, that's really distressing and terrible. And I really feel for Hermione.
It's really bad. So after this is so bad that she ends class. She's like, we gotta end class. I can't take this.
That's it. We're done. Down to Transfiguration with
Yes.
Bamf McGonagall.
Oh, Banff McGonagall. So they head to Banff McGonagall's Transfiguration class, and she's like, everybody seems weird. What's going on?
Boom, I'm a cat.
The way that she can tell everyone seems weird is that no one clapped during her Transfiguration. And she's like, not that I need the applause, but this is the only time people haven't clapped for me.
She's so down to earth. And
Oh,
then
it's
she's
so
like,
good.
yeah, as soon as she learns where they come from, she goes, like she sort of sighs and says, if it were not for the fact that I never speak ill of my colleagues, like, oh man, I feel you, McG, so hard, as like I work like managing a big group of people, and so I can't like shit talk about one to the other, but so often I just
Sure.
sort of look at people and I'm like, yeah, you know, he's a challenge.
Yeah. So the best is she just opens it. She's like, oh, okay, which one of you students did she say is gonna die?
Typical.
And Harry's like, me? And she's like, don't worry, Harry. She predicts the death of a student every single year and no one's died. Then not only is she sassing the teacher, but she sasses the entire profession and says, quote, divination is one of the most imprecise forms of magic, which is like a
So
really
cutting.
proper sassy way to be like, her class is a bunch of bullshit.
So good.
So Lavender then asks, but what about Neville's cup? Now, I have a question here.
Yeah.
I don't think the book ever noted about what was inside of Neville's cup. Did I just miss that? Or is she referring to the fact that Neville dropped the cup?
That's probably what it was.
That's what it is?
Yes.
Oh man, I was reading way too hard into this. Every time something happens with Neville, I keep it tucked because I know that there is a fan theory somewhere that came out, I think when like the 5th book was either just coming out or being written or something. There was like this elaborate fan theory that like Neville is actually the chosen one and Harry was just like the fall guy and all this stuff. And I know no details about
Yeah.
it, but I just know it's like the most popular one, so much to the point where J.K. Rowling had to make a statement and be like, no, that wasn't intentional. I never wrote that. And then there's another theory that on top of it that is like she actually did write that. And then the fact that people like found out about the fan theory aspect of it
Changed,
made her
right.
rewrite the series.
Who
so
knows?
I'm really trying to find out like what this is. And I'm really excited that I know it exists, but I know nothing about it. So I'm like, anytime Neville does anything, I'm super intent on it.
Yeah, and I hope that you keep talking about that theory over time because as you say, especially between books 4 and 5. I don't know how long the wait was, but it was like 2 years or something. Like that was the most fertile time for fan theories, like the internet and the forums and LiveJournal and like all just the fandom was like primed for action, and we just had to think of ways to keep amusing ourselves. So like the fan theory situation between books 4 and 5 is legendary.
Nice. I'm really excited about it. That's something I'm really looking forward to. I also want to know why Snape killed Dumbledore. Anyway, Hermione and Ron get into an argument later on about divination class. So Hermione's basically saying that the class is a bunch of bullshit, and Ron is saying that, you're just mad because you're not good at it.
Cuts deep, Ron.
Then Hermione says she got so much more out of her arithmancy class than she did from that. And Harry's
But
wait, she hasn't gone to that class yet. And here's my theory. I have no idea. I hope it's correct.
All right.
Hermione, with the help of McGonagall, is doing some sort of spell that splits her into 3 people or like 3 versions of herself.
Okay.
And then she goes to all 3 of the classes, and it like her personalities get split too, which... That's my thought, is like her sassy side went to class, which is why everyone's
like...
That's a very
good theory, Mike.
Oh, no, I hope it's right. But because when she's like sassing the teacher, Harry's like, whoa, Hermione's never talked back to a teacher before. So I think she splits into multiple personalities and her sassy side went to tea leaf class.
Excellent theory. We'll see.
We'll see what happens. So they go to Hagrid's class, and he begins and tells them to open their books. And Malfoy immediately is like, how are we supposed to open these books?
Again, being a terrible bully. Like, what bully admits weakness? I guess this one.
He's officially the worst bully of all time. And he's like, what do you mean how? And he's like, the books try to attack us when we try to open them. How are we supposed to do this? And he's like, oh, you guys are really dumb. Like, you have to stroke them. Like, and it literally...
so sad. Like, Hagrid gets animals so much when other people don't, he just gets like, why?
Yeah, it's like he's so advanced that he doesn't necessarily realize that these people have no idea. And it's funny that they said that all the students have the books like latched up in different ways. Yeah. So Harry like has it closed with a belt. Like other people have it wrapped with a bunch of rope. So all this stuff. I have quote, Malfoy has his sass meter turned up to 11. And then Lavender Brown keeps getting brought up again and again. So like, I don't know why Lavender Brown is important. Like Lavender Brown is a great name, but they keep always referencing Lavender Brown's opinion. Do we ever end up caring about Lavender Brown? So I'm not familiar with the name at all.
There is sort of like there's the inner circle of the trio and like Draco, right? And then there's this kind of slightly more outer circle of the named students whose faces we know. Lavender is one of those. She's just like another Gryffindor. Okay. However, her personality trait is being outspoken. So that might be why you're a little more, inclined to know who she is.
Okay. That makes sense.
She will do stuff down the line.
Okay. Good. So then Hagrid brings out the birds from the cover of the book for class. You find out that these birds are hippogriffs. And I was like, again, another one of these words I've heard a lot but didn't know what they are. So you have the hippogriffs, and apparently they are very proud birds, and you're not supposed to insult them, which is heavy foreshadowing for 5 pages later. What you have to do to properly approach them is you need to walk up to the hippogriff, bow to the hippogriff, and only touch them if they also bow, which is like the sign that they're chill
accepted with you. Yeah, I wonder how many wizards died figuring that
out. No one in the class wants to volunteer to approach one. Everyone's scared, and Harry's like, I'll do it. And then a bunch of the kids are like, but Harry, what about the death omen? And he's like, shut up.
I got a death omen on my forehead, bitch.
So Harry goes up to this particular hippogriff whose name is Buckbeak.
Legend.
Again, another name I've heard. More cats should be named Buckbeak.
Legend.
So he goes up to Buckbeak, bows at Buckbeak. It bows back, so they're like, awesome. And then Hagrid's like, why don't you ride it? And Harry's like, oh, God, Hagrid, I didn't want to do this,
Harry's
but
like, listen,
okay.
man, I was supporting you as a friend, but this is going a little bit far.
This is a little bit too much. So he gets on, they start flying, and it's like kind of growing out of control. Harry feels like he's going to fall off. It's like a really rough ride, but lands safely. Everything's okay.
Yeah.
So the rest of the classes gives him applause, and then it's like, wait, this is really cool. Let's do it. So the rest of the class goes up to the hippogriffs, and they're doing the whole bow thing. A bunch are bowing back. So Malfoy particularly goes up to Buckbeak, and he does the whole bow thing, and it bows back. So Malfoy's like, oh, this is so easy. And then he starts going up closer to Buckbeak, and he's like, oh, you're not dangerous, you little piece of shit. And then it attacks him because the one rule was don't make fun of them, and then he violates the rule
Buckbeak
by
does
making
not
fun
like
of them. So it shanks him with talons. He cries out like a little baby, says that he's dying. There's blood everywhere.
A little bitch.
Hagrid basically says, you're not dying. Get over it. Stop. Sends him to Pomfrey. Pomfrey does the whole thing to put him back together, but he's still complaining that he hurts, which is literally impossible. Given that Pomfrey regrew Harry's bones in his arm when he was missing them, I'm pretty sure she's capable of removing all senses of pain.
I know. Malfoy's just milking it for all it's worth.
So after class, they're back in Hogwarts. They see that there's a light on in Hagrid's little room. So they're like,
go
we should
check
talk
on
to
him,
Hagrid.
be a good
Yeah,
friend.
let's check on him, make sure he's okay before it's dark and we're not allowed to be running around.
Again, very altruistic 13-year-olds.
They're fantastic. They're great friends, super loyal. They could all be Hufflepuffs.
Hi.
So they run over, and Hagrid is super drunk. And he's basically saying that he's going to get fired because Malfoy's still complaining about being hurt. And the kids are like, oh, he's just faking it. And they're like, we'll be witnesses. We know that it was his fault. You told him not to make fun of the bird. That's the one thing he did. It was literally the only rule you gave, and he disobeyed it.
Hagrid, though, real mad that Harry is out walking the grounds, that the other two, quote, let him.
Exactly. So he's very upset, yells at them and says, go back. You can't get in trouble. I'm not worth that, which is just so touching. He really cares about these little 13-year-old kids.
I bow to you, Hagrid.
It's just he's such a sweetie. So then we get into chapter 7, the boggart in the wardrobe.
Is that what it's called, or just the boggart?
I want to say the boggart in the wardrobe because then it's like the Lion, the Witch, and the boggart in the wardrobe, which would have been a way better version.
Oh my God. I was hiking this weekend and I saw like a single lamppost in the forest and I was like, Mr. Tumnus, where are you?
Oh man.
My dad was like, are you hallucinating? I'm like, no, it's Narnia.
It's the
C.S.
Chronicles.
Lewis, forget it. That's another podcast, though.
All right, so chapter 7. Malfoy finally returns to class, and it's Snape's potions class, which is the worst class in all of Hogwarts.
Lots of sympathy for Draco and his broken arm. Isn't it weird that he wasn't like ridiculed instead for being smashed by a hippogriff that like loved Harry? Wouldn't that be? I don't know.
I feel like all of the things that happen to Malfoy, like he should get picked on for, like
I
everything.
know.
There's been multiple times where he was scared of things and got detention for stuff. Like there's so many different things that people should be like, Malfoy, you suck, but they don't. They should hate him for being a snooty rich kid, right?
I know. I don't. Maybe because Slytherins understand power and his family is genuinely very powerful and like you don't want to mess with them.
Yeah. Malfoy finally returns to class after a couple days in the hospital. He's got a ton of bandages all over his arm.
Obviously.
And he's acting like he came out of the damn Civil War with this freaking wound. It's so excessive. Harry sees him wink at Crabbe and Goyle when Parkinson's disease asks him, oh, does it hurt? And he's like, oh, it hurts so bad. And then he winks at Crabbe and Goyle. So then Harry's like, yep, totally faking it, confirmed. They're trying to do this like particular potion to make a shrinking potion. And everybody has to do all these things where they have to cut up all these flowers and ingredients and all this stuff.
In a special way, with special technique.
Yeah, all this stuff they have to do.
But poor Malfoy.
Malfoy raises his hand. He's like, Professor, I can't do this because my arm's in a sling. Then, great quote from Snape. Well, first he makes Ron chop up something for him.
Yeah.
Ron, who is not taking shit from anyone in this book, just like chops it super rough.
Does a shitty job.
Completely uneven pieces. And then Snape notices this and he's like, hey, give him your finely chopped ones and you take the shitty ones. And he's like, ah.
Which is a moment of excellent teaching. Like, I would totally do that too.
Absolutely amazing.
Maybe Snape's only moment of excellent teaching.
Ooh, man. Ooh. So then he has to do another thing that he can't do. So then you get a great quote from Snape. Potter, you can skin Malfoy's shrivel fig.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he can.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he can skin that shrivel fig. My favorite thing that I saw recently on the internet, it was from a Reddit called, I think it's called Suddenly Hogwarts or Unexpected Hogwarts. And it's mainly Tumblr conversations that have an unexpected Harry Potter reference come in.
Oh my gosh.
One was like, what is a sentence that immediately brings about sexual tension? So the thread goes, make me. Is that so? Oh, really? And then someone replied, scared, Potter? So this is so good.
So good.
So Neville is making a potion, and he's fucking up. He's messing up so bad.
Why do they even let Neville in the potions lab? Like,
We really shouldn't. So he's messing up real bad, and Hermione's trying to help him out, and Snape's like, no, you can't do that. He needs to figure this out on his own. Then Seamus tells Harry that he hears news that a muggle saw Sirius Black near Hogwarts,
which is creepy and scary.
Why are you telling us where he was? Just say, oh, they spotted him. I'm sure he's going to be caught soon. But that wouldn't let Harry do any suspicious digging on his own.
Exactly. So Malfoy's being really ominous to Harry about getting revenge for some reason. And Harry's like, why would I get revenge? This is another prediction. I think, and this might be true, but I want to say Peter Pettigrew, same guy who's currently disguised as Ron's rat, used Polyjuice Potion to dress up like Sirius Black.
Okay.
And then tried to kill the whole Potter family and was unsuccessful. Because I'm pretty sure Pettigrew was with Voldemort when all this went down, and I want to say he's the one that actually did the spell, and then it bounced back and attacked both of them. Not totally sure about everything.
Everyone's fates are tied up.
Yeah, that's what I think is in play. And I know that somehow Sirius Black needs to be innocent, so that's what I think is going on.
Cool.
I'm still confused of the whole killing 13 people with a spell thing.
Yeah.
And how if it was Pettigrew, how would he get arrested and then not change back after the 24 hours or whatever. So I don't know how all that went down, but I think that that's a thing. I could be terribly wrong.
We'll see.
So Snape tells class that they're going to test Neville's potion at the end and see how it goes. So Hermione starts whispering instructions to him out of the corner of her mouth, which is awesome. I really enjoy no longer goody-goody two-shoes Hermione.
Oh, yeah.
Such a better, first book Hermione, pretty annoying. Second book Hermione, progressively better. Third book Hermione, fuck yeah.
Her Gryffindor showing.
She is. Finally ditched that Ravenclaw-ness.
Yes, and she has a very interesting moral code where she's all for following the rules until she deems the rules unjust.
I love it. She's like Batman.
She is.
So she whispers it to him, and Snape calls up Neville, and what they have to do is shrink a toad.
Yep.
And Snape is basically like, ha ha ha, this toad is gonna get poisoned, watch this. And then they put the drop on it, and it works. It shrinks him. He puts a dropper on him to bring him back to normal. But he then immediately says 5 points from Gryffindor, not to Gryffindor.
You jerk.
And all the Gryffindors are like, wait, what? And he's like, Hermione helped him, I know. And it was like, the worst.
I love the high and low stakes of this book. High
Real
stakes,
good.
Harry. The worst fugitive in the literal world is coming after you and might be outside the gates. However, 5 points from Gryffindor. Oh, no.
Also, you might be late to class because it's really hard to get. It's really hard to get there. And also 5 points, that's nothing. Harry at one point got
500 points for
and he was totally fine with getting 5 points at one time when he sass talked Malfoy, and he was like 5 points, whatever. But now Ron's like 5 points. Oh my god, it's whatever. I'm gonna win 20 Quidditch matches this season, so it's gonna be totally Gucci.
I'm gonna trace point inflation over the course of the series at some point.
Yeah, and really figure out what's serious. And Quidditch means way too much.
Yeah.
I've talked about this in a previous episode, but there's only one sport at Hogwarts, and it's really important to determining the House Cup. And there's only 7 people on each team. This is absurd.
And
there needs to be more than one sport, or there needs to be a quiz bowl or something more than just people doing things they're not supposed to, answering questions right in class, and Quidditch. That's not enough.
I know. I'm totally with you.
But apparently being brave gets you 10 points, Neville Longbottom.
Whatever.
Hermione, they're leaving class. They're walking up the stairs, and they turn around and they're like, wait, where did Hermione go? Then she's at the bottom of the stairs magically.
How'd that happen?
Further confirming my split into 3 people theory. So she reappears at the bottom of the stairs. They confront her about it, and she's like, what?
Being
What are you talking
vague,
about?
being suspicious.
And then her backpack starts to rip because it has so many books in it.
Been there, girl.
And they're like, why do you have so many books for all these classes that you don't have today?
She's like, lunch, and runs away.
Yeah, she's like, let's get to lunch. I'm really hungry. Great little avoiding the problem there. So then they go to Defense Against the Dark Arts class, led by...
Dada, as we say fondly.
Oh, Dada. I like it. So Dada is led by Professor Lupin. He leads them all to an empty classroom, and their task is that they have to combat a boggart that has lodged itself in a wardrobe.
But not before Peeves gets to call him Looney Lupin, which, man, just got there and he has a nickname already.
Got a nickname already, which is great. It's got alliteration, so it passes the J.K. Rowling test.
There you go.
Anyway, for the lesson, they'll be squaring off against a boggart, and
I don't really know what it necessarily looks like.
It's like Schrodinger's cat. If the boggart is there without a subject to, base its appearance on, does it even have an appearance?
Okay, so you never actually see what it is, and it's base state.
I always pictured it as like Slimer from Pokemon, but gray, like
Okay.
a bog creature. That's how.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's just
so
because
it's like
my
Grimer,
kid
but then
brain. Yeah, but I think it's
Okay.
just supposed to be like a formless kind of creature until
Okay.
it's faced with an opponent. But before we get to the boggart room, my favorite line I think from classes so far: "Put your books away," Lupin said. Yes, finally, because we are in wizard school. Why are there textbooks? Like, use your wands, people. Come on.
Yeah, they have, people in pictures and paintings move and animated newspapers and all this. You would think they would just have
This is the school of practical effects, people. Come on.
you would think they would just have like one piece of paper that they brought to every class, and then magic text would show up based on like whatever was relevant to that lesson. Then they wouldn't have to carry textbooks.
Yeah, or like a chalkboard and Matilda style, just write the single spell for the day on the board, people. Come on.
Man. Oh, Matilda. So good. Underrated superhero, Matilda.
I know. But back to Boggarts.
Yeah, so back to the boggart. Basically, it is revealed that what they're going to have to do is fight this boggart like one by one. And what a boggart does is it takes the form of whatever your greatest fear is. It's a shapeshifter, and that's what it appears as once they open the closet, because it's in a cupboard.
Yeah. And it can be in any like dark space, like under,
Yeah.
like a closet or under floorboard or in a trunk.
Exactly. So whenever they open it, whoever is looking at it and addressing it, it's going to become their fear. And the spell they use to defeat the boggart is so far my favorite spell, Ridiculous,
Yes.
but spelled Riddikulus,
Because
which
that makes it Latin.
magical. So good. I love it. I love it so much. As someone that took 3 years of Latin in high school, this makes me so happy. Because it was always the best in Latin class when the translation of a word would just be a different spelling of an English word.
You're like boom,
so
easy
good.
5 points on the quiz.
Like to say I see is video, but it's spelled video. And it's just like awesome. I'm totally going to remember what I see means. So you have to say ridiculous, and then you have to think of something funny while you're doing it. And then the boggart, rather than turning into whatever you're afraid of,
Yep.
will turn into whatever funny thing you are thinking of.
And you humiliate the boggart into submission.
Exactly. And basically the kids are going to do it one by one, and then eventually the boggart will be defeated. So they bring Neville up first.
Poor Neville. Poor Neville.
Yeah, poor Neville.
Kid never catches a break.
I'm really excited to get to the part where the fanfic about him being the chosen one happens. I'm so excited to see that development, and I know nothing about it, but I'm looking forward to it so
Yeah, and
freaking
again,
much.
based on the 2.5 books you've read so far, do you see that coming at all?
No,
No.
0%,
Yeah.
which is amazing, and what I wish it was real. Anyway,
I know.
Lupin brings up poor Neville, and he says that his biggest fear is Professor Snape, and everybody, kind
Who
of giggles
almost
about
just
it.
killed his pet toad, his only friend.
Yeah. So Lupin tells Neville, he's basically like, okay, picture whatever your grandmother wears, and then imagine Snape wearing that, which is just a great lesson. Like, Lupin has easily vaulted
So
himself to the
good.
best teacher.
I know, look at this fucking pedagogy, people. So good.
He's the opposite of Lockhart. Like, we went from the worst
So
teacher
true.
in the world to the greatest. Like, Lupin has already, taken a nap on the train and then saved Harry from Dementors.
Yep.
And then he does the best lesson, and then afterwards he takes Harry on the side and, mentors him. Lupin's amazing.
He does, takes the time to really give the kid who needs a little boost, this boost of confidence, takes them
just
away from
incredible.
the books and into a suitable for their age level practical experiment. I'm looking at you, Lockhart, and your pixies.
He was so bad. Basically, he does the whole, opens the cabinet, says ridiculous, and then it's Snape wearing grandmother Longbottom's clothes, which I can only imagine is amazing, and I'm really excited to watch a third movie because I really want to see Alan
Yes.
Rickman dressed up as a frilly grandma with lace and pink polka dots and all the stuff that they describe.
And fandom sidebar, which is becoming a recurring theme of my guest starring. So Lupin and Snape is a ship that people have on the internet. It was never my
Interesting.
ship. And I
Okay.
I never have honestly read anything from it because it's not my thing and whatever, I just skip it. But in this moment, I am just now it's occurring to myself, why did that idea come immediately to Lupin's head? Why did he was Neville, go, Snape, okay, grandma's clothes. Why was that directly in the front of his mind? Don't know. Moving on.
That's fantastic. Yeah, so then Lupin basically, after this, the whole class laughs loudly and everyone's like, oh, we can totally do this. Everyone instantly becomes more confident.
Such a nice image, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Lupin has all the kids come up one by one, and Harry's getting really nervous because he believes that the boggart is going to turn into a Dementor, and he's still kind of confused and scared by them, and he doesn't know what's going to happen. And he's like, how would I make a Dementor not terrifying?
Yeah.
But fortunately, before it can get to Harry, Lupin jumps in front instead of Harry, and then he does the boggart thing. It turns into this strange silver orb, which is super ominous and has to mean something in the future because they like take the time to describe it but then not explain it.
Yes.
So definitely going to come back later in the book. I have no idea what this could be. And then it gets defeated. So the only people that didn't go were Hermione and Harry.
It's true.
Everybody else went.
It's true.
So the class is like really excited after leaving the lesson. But
And
Harry,
Lupin gives points to everybody, for the record.
yeah, points to everyone. Like Lupin, such a bro. He gives points to everybody. Everyone's feeling great except for Harry. He's like, Lupin deliberately stopped me from attacking the boggart. Like, why did he do
Really
this?
just internalizing that perceived slight.
Yeah, knows that something's up. But that is the end of chapter 7. And now we get into chapter 8, the last chapter that we're going to cover on this episode, which ends in an amazing cliffhanger, which is really great because the last time I had you on the podcast, we ended it on chapter 10 of book 2, which also had a really great cliffhanger, which is like that people are petrified.
The other most amazing cliffhanger to date.
Yeah, so clearly I just keep having you on the end on the cliffhanger episodes, which is fantastic.
Listen, man, I'm always here for that.
So good. So chapter 8 begins, and it's called Flight of the Fat Lady, which is so good. I think it might have to dethrone the Death Day Party as my favorite name of a chapter.
It is pretty good, especially because we start with Quidditch practice.
I thought the first thing that you start with is that Defense Against the Dark Arts is everybody's favorite class.
Oh, you're probably right. Just my first note was about Dreamboat Oliver Wood, so sorry, I got a little ahead of myself
that gets
there.
into soon. But the first thing is basically Defense Against the Dark Arts is instantly everybody's favorite class.
Duh.
The only people that don't like it are Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle because Lupin stood up against them in the train on the way to Hogwarts. So
Yeah,
that
and
makes
even in
sense.
this case, the Slytherins are like, fuck you guys. Like, this is the thing that we love.
Yeah, and then Snape is being extra sassy in potions class because the word of the boggart thing spread around the school and he's embarrassed about everybody laughing at him dressed up as a grandma.
Who wouldn't be?
So he was very sassy. Harry then further hates divination because Professor Trelawney always tears up when she sees him. And she just looks like super sad all the time because she thinks Harry's going to die.
Which, like, didn't Harry get enough of that in book 1 where everyone looked
Yeah,
at him
I mean,
and, like, thought about death?
Right? Oh, and he faces death all the time. Like, just give the kid a break. Hagrid's class has gotten a lot lamer because he's not confident anymore since the Buckbeak incident happened with the hippogriffs.
Malfoy's the worst.
So the next creature that they discuss is flobberworms, which, come on, Hagrid. I don't even know what a flobberworm is, but based on the name, we know it's super lame.
They are. They're very boring.
No one wants to deal with flobberworms. Harry is looking forward to Quidditch, as he always is.
As none of the readers are. Does anyone like reading about Quidditch?
No, I thought I was going to like it so much.
It's
and I
so
hate
boring.
it. It's the worst. It's so terrible.
boring.
I really think it's because J.K. Rowling does not have a fundamental grasp on sports.
I think you're right.
You've said it before, is that you need to view it more as like a dance or like a plot driver, not necessarily sports, just because the way that it works, like the sport itself doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no.
The dramatic moments don't make any sense. And just there's all the aspects of it like are not, it doesn't accurately represent the true drama that comes with sports. Like sports have so much drama in them and they're just not accurately represented in Quidditch because no one else matters aside from the seeker.
Yeah,
like nobody matters.
It's a device to an end. So, like, it's a device to further the development of relationships. So, like Harry and
Yeah.
Draco's rivalry, or in later times, you'll see sort of the crowd playing a dynamic or the announcer playing a dynamic. Like, it's just sort of a venue to let those things play out in a way that arguably it should be just played out very much shorter, or to get characters to new places, to get Harry isolated into the hospital wing during Chamber of Secrets, for example.
Yeah, and it's a shame because there's so many good things you can learn from team sports.
Yeah.
Like, you can learn so much from team sports about being selfless and working together and, like, problem solving and critical thinking and, like,
Yeah, no,
all
none
this
of that
stuff.
happens.
And it just becomes a solo show of, like, Harry versus Malfoy or Harry, by himself. And it's like, that is distinctly not the point of sports.
Yeah,
It's really
no.
sad.
You're right, and I'd love to see some folks, kind of address that, rewrite it, do whatever.
Yeah. That'd be cool. So Harry's excited, as he always is, for Quidditch is coming up. And what's great is Wood really wants to win this year because he's a senior, which I interpret as Harry gets to be the captain next year. That's going to happen. And you find out that last year's tournament got canceled because of the whole basilisk killing everyone thing.
Medieval prophecy coming true, whatever.
Yeah, like that's normal grounds to cancel a tournament. But basically, Wood is super pissed because he's like, we've had the best team the past 2 years, but Harry got hurt during the final and we couldn't postpone it.
And then he was like, no offense, Harry.
And then the tournament got canceled last year. He's like, we have to win this year. Also, I'm a senior. Guys, please win. The only thing I care about is Quidditch. I'm Oliver Wood.
Yeah. Again, such a revelation for fandom to have a hot male to write about who isn't, 12.
So after practice, people are really excited because Halloween is the first weekend that the students are allowed to go to Hogsmeade. And it's like the middle of October at this point. Ron says Harry should ask McGonagall if he can go because, why would Sirius Black go to Hogsmeade? And there was extraneous circumstances because his step-parents are the worst, so that's why he couldn't get it signed. He's like, you should go talk to McGonagall. And he's like, okay, I think I'll do that.
Good idea.
Right after this happens, Hermione's cat Crookshanks violently attacks Ron's backpack, which has Scabbers in it.
What's that all
AKA
about?
Peter Pettigrew disguised as Scabbers.
Perhaps.
That's why Crookshanks is trying to destroy it. There's like this epic chase. Scabbers ends up being saved, but Ron is super pissy about it and like doesn't talk to Hermione for like the next day.
Yeah.
Lavender, who I questioned earlier, why is she important? Well, now she's having more lines. Lavender gets news from home that her pet dies, and it happens to be the same day as a Trelawney prediction. It was killed by a fox, and the prediction was, quote, the thing you are dreading most will happen on October 16th. And she's like, oh my God, this is true, like blah, blah, blah. And Hermione, which I love, just calls complete bullshit on the whole thing.
She's just like record screech butter.
So Hermione's like, wait a second.
Is this really what you were dreading?
Yeah, exactly. Like, were you really dreading your rabbit dying? Is this something you knew?
Also, it didn't happen today.
Exactly. It's like, is this what you were dreading? It's like, well, of course I wasn't dreading it, but now I am. And it's like, that's bullshit.
Was it old? Yes.
No, it's like, was it old? And then she said no. And then it was like, then why would you be dreading its death? Because you weren't expecting its death. And then she was like, and also it happened a couple days ago. You just found out about it today.
Really not the moment to dig into this, Hermione. Maybe just give it a sec.
Lavender in her not great emotional state, like storms off angrily.
Take your mysterious circumstances and then teleport to the back of that staircase.
Oh, man. So then Harry goes up to McGonagall, asks if he can go to Hogsmeade, and McGonagall says no. Rules are rules.
Come on, McGonagall. You won't budge. There must be some...
McGonagall flows between being really cool and the worst so much.
Yes.
Gives Harry the Nimbus 2000. Really cool. Makes Harry go to detention when he's setting the dragon free. Not really cool.
Yeah.
Gives Harry food even though he missed the opening speech thing. Really cool. Doesn't let Harry go to Hogsmeade. Not very cool. Like, she fluctuates in between.
And it's been very interesting rereading this as well and knowing kind of the full events of the series. Because I am trying to think, like, in what situations does she just know better and is trying to protect them? And in which is she, like, having a bit of fun and, like, saying, oh, no, you're a kid. I should really be, more strict with you. It's hard to say, but I really love, the performance given by Dame Maggie in the movies. I think she really performs like my headcanon too of McGonagall being like stern outside but like deeply caring and funny and like spontaneous spark inside. But yeah, she must be real worried about Sirius Black.
Yes, that's the vibe that I got from it. It's like she's looking out for Harry, which is good. So that's fine. So Harry gets left behind, and he's in the hallways, and Lupin sees him, and Lupin's like, hey, how about you come into my office? And Harry's like, okay.
Yay! Hang times.
He has in his office a tiny water demon, and you find out that the key to defeating a water demon is to break its grip. And then here's the only problem I've had with Lupin is this next quote. He says, notice the fingers are strong, but very brittle. I don't know if Lupin knows how antonyms work, but these are opposing things.
Okay.
Like, I don't know how a finger can be strong and brittle. That would be like something being hot and cold or left and right.
Yeah, maybe what he means to say is like the grip feels strong, but in reality it is brittle.
Okay, so like the grip itself as a whole is strong, but the individual fingers are brittle. Okay.
Yes, or like, like a force that is strong in one direction. Like if you redirect it, it would like break its momentum, like something like that.
I see. Interesting.
I think that's more of a writing thing than a Lupin thing, but
yeah.
I'm partial to him.
But it seems like that might come into play later.
But like he's so cool, just hanging out, just around with Harry, making him feel good. Oh, I love him so much.
So they're talking, and Harry asks about the Boggart situation. He's like, "Why did you not let me do it?" And Lupin's like, "Oh, because I thought it was going to turn into Voldemort, and that would have been bad news." And Harry was shocked because he was like, "Oh, I was fearing that it was going to become a Dementor." And he was also shocked that Lupin called him Lord Voldemort, not he who must not be named, because so far the only person that is
just Harry and the Dumbles.
Yeah, exactly. Dumbles and Harry, the only people that call him Voldemort, and then Lupin is just like, fuck it, Voldemort.
Yes, like what's that about? When did that start? Why is he, not so scared?
Exactly.
So much intrigue.
Yeah, so Lupin says that it's good that it was going to be a Dementor because he says, quote, "That means the only thing you fear is fear itself," which is like, oh, so good.
Nice.
That means Harry's a boss. Like, he's not scared of Voldemort. He's just scared of a thing that is literal fear. All it does is make you fear. So
I know,
it makes sense.
I know. So good.
So Snape comes in with some sort of potion, and it's really...
so much intrigue, so much mystery.
It's super sketchy and it's weird. And basically Lupin describes it as something that he's like, "Oh, I've been feeling under the weather, and Snape made this really difficult potion for me to keep me alive."
Right, only Snape can make it. Yeah.
And Harry is like, there's this rumor that everybody thinks Snape really wants the Defense Against the Dark Arts job, which is like, maybe he's poisoning Lupin.
I bet he didn't know that, Harry.
And then Harry leaves.
To me, it was very interesting because a lot of, Harry noticed a lot of things there. So he noticed that Snape was bringing something very complex just for Lupin, that Lupin drank it unthinkingly, that Snape gave it to him without any, sass. The fact that Harry noticed that interaction's nuances were very interesting to me. And again, not being a shipper, but knowing that the ship exists, I see how there's, canonical evidence for, at least some kind of backstory there.
Interesting. Yeah, it was a good. I really liked that interaction. It was really solid.
It was, and also I think it's one of the few good examples of a child watching adult interactions. Harry is wise beyond his years in a lot of ways, but at the end of the day, he is newly 13, and these are complex adults with a lot of knowledge and a lot of backstory. So that was cool to notice as well.
Definitely. So the squad comes back from Hogsmeade, and they give Harry a bunch of candy, which is awesome. Total bro move by the squad.
Yeah, they did a good job.
But Ron is being silly. And after Harry tells him with the whole Lupin thing, he's like, "Oh, he's clearly poisoning Lupin. I don't think this is happening."
Ron always has very strong ideas very quickly.
And, he really just doesn't like anyone from Slytherin. He's always anti-Malfoy and always anti-Snape. So they go to the Halloween feast.
Best part of the year.
Yeah.
Best part of the year.
Best
If you had
food.
to choose one day to be at Hogwarts, it best be Halloween.
Yeah, the Halloween feast seems lit. It seems fantastic.
Even though pumpkin juice is actuality
gross.
disgusting,
So gross.
it
So
is
gross.
the best feast of the year.
Yes. So they enjoy the feast, and afterwards, the Gryffindors try to go back into their tower, into their dorm room.
Tired after a long day of going to Hogsmeade and buying candy and then doing their big Halloween feast. They just want to rest their weary heads.
But there's a big holdup in front of the painting. There's a big long line.
Yeah.
And then Percy comes up and he's like, "I'm Percy, let me through." And he goes through, and then he freaks out.
Pomp and circumstance.
He freaks out and is like, "Someone get Professor McGonagall, right now." Basically, you find out that the Fat Lady painting has been slashed into pieces.
Who would
and
do that?
The Fat Ladies ran away, and they're like, "What's going on? What happened?" And then Peeves is floating around, and he basically reveals amazing, glorious cliffhanger. Oh, Sirius Black did it.
Sirius Black is at Hogwarts?
So good.
Oh my god.
So freaking good. So it's fantastic
so good.
in every single way.
It happens on Halloween. There is violence without victims, which just kind of, implies more violence with victims. It's a very foreboding thing.
It's fantastic.
Also, in the place where they sleep, and Peeves gets to call Dumbledore Professor Head, which I want to adopt as a nickname / insult of my own. Oh my god, I love this chapter. So good.
It's so good. And that is a perfect way to end a chapter and a perfect way to end this episode of the podcast. So Amanda, thank you so much for joining. This is fantastic. Listeners, thank you so much for listening. If you want to continue to follow along, you can subscribe to this podcast on SoundCloud. You can subscribe on iTunes. You can follow us on Twitter at PotterlessPod. And if you want to be super awesome and rate us on iTunes,
It helps people.
that would be the coolest thing ever. That helps so much.
It's like chocolate to a Dementor victim.
Exactly.
iTunes ratings to podcasters.
Amazing. So yeah, if you want to see more of Amanda, you can see her on all of the social media at She's So Mickey, Mickey. And if you want to follow along with her podcast, it is called Spirits Podcast. And it's basically like drunk history, but if instead of history, it's about mythology. And it's amazing. My favorite episode so far is when you did recently the Maui episode, because there's going to be that Disney movie Maui starring Dwayne The Rock
Moana.
Johnson. But like the real Maui story is way darker.
It's about the dope rated R history behind the upcoming Disney movie Moana.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. I get drunk with a historian and talk about folklore and mythology and urban legends. It's great. Spirits Podcast.
It's really good. I am a big fan of it. It's a good
Thanks.
one. But yes.
Thanks, Mike.
So thank you so much, Amanda. And everyone listening, thank you so much. And as they say in Hogwarts, wizard on!
Yay.
Potterless is created by Mike Schubert, it is hosted by Mike Schubert, it is edited by Mike Schubert, it is produced by Mike Schubert, and the music is by Bettina Campamanes. Thanks again, everyone, for listening. You can subscribe to us on iTunes and SoundCloud and Stitcher. You can find us at PotterlessPod on Twitter. We have a Facebook page. Feel free to find us there. And until next time, wizard on!